and obedient and very much about sort of the rules and the formatting. And I think that I didn't fit in very well with that culture.
Okay.
It 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 alarmed a lot of people. I mean, it was just, so at the end of the time they said, listen, this person is, I think that what was written on the letter was, we're indefinitely suspending him for gross insubordination. The story of my life, breaking rules. So yeah, they sparked me, they sent me off.
Okay.
So at this point,
At this point, how's your dad handling
my
this?
dad's not handling it. He's not handling it. He's like he's in the asylum. He's crazy. He's like, this boy, what am I gonna do? He's like talking to his friends. He's asking people. But so I think back now. So exactly as you said, looking back, I mean, on my mom's side, I was the oldest child.
Yes.
On my dad's side, I was the second oldest, but I was the oldest son. So there is no frame of reference. He has no frame of reference of how to deal with a teenage child who's going through these things and can't balance what he wants and where he goes. And so he's also just sort of grasping a straw. So he's asking his friends, or he's asking the pastor, and then there's religion, and we're trying all sorts of things, corporal punishment. It's a whole mix. Sometimes you just throw the sink and nothing sticks. And I think about it, and I think he's gotten better over the years. He's gotten a bit more patient. But at that time I think he was lost.
He was at
not
his
not
wit's
lost. He was
end.
out of his depth. Yes. And so eventually he says, listen, you're not going to school anymore. You go to the village.
Oh.
Yes. So I leave town. I get on a bus. But I have an uncle somewhere in Bushenyi, really good uncle of mine. And so he's a teacher too. So he tells my father, listen, you bring him. Let's see what we can do with him. And he takes me in. And I think that's where my life changed. A lot of what I am today is because of that conversation, those conversations I had with him. So he's called Peter Asiimwe, and he's a really good man. So so first thing he did is fix my self-confidence, which was the answer to everything. The ability for me to think that I could do something, that I could do anything I wanted to do, because it fixed my self-confidence. It killed my bedwetting. It allowed me to actually sit down. So I actually thought I was dyslexic. I have come to think now that in my younger years I was a bit dyslexic. So that's why. So I would sit down and read for an hour, and in school we used to call it banging, reflect. The whole hour you're reading the book, you've read one page, nothing has come. And so I come from a place where I can't, and this school isn't, you have 4 times a week you have to read on pressure lamps, and so it's far out. It's so far out there. And it's in Kabwe on the road to Kasese. And I fixed my schooling in 2 years, between S3 second term and S4. I fixed 4 years of school. I study everything I didn't study in Form 1. I study everything I didn't study in Form 2. And I catch up on school, and my life is great. It's not great, but it gets fixed. It gets back on track. I'm reading news for the school. I'm physically working hard. This is like proper, like, what they call it, splitting firewood and carrying jerrycans of water and tending to cattle and running 10-kilometer distances to go on across the road. Like how in the village it says, Gende Wagundi and bring something. It's supposed to be a really near distance, but it's like really like 5 k's because it's 2 hills over in the valley. So that's what I'm doing, and it changes me. It changes me. It changes my body structure. It changes how my mind is shaping. But most of all, his wife is a literature specialist. And so she just introduces me to this world of unknown things and these heroes and complex villains, and And that, I think that becomes my world. And I own it and I live in it. And there's so much love, and it's very warm and very welcoming. And that's where my life changes.
Wow.
Yes. So,
Okay.
and I live there, and out of that little school, I mean, like, this school was so far back. Like when we did our physics practicals, we did it in 2 shifts. So, because we had 40 guys doing physics, but we only had 20 test tubes. So you had to do the first paper, and those guys finish the paper, and then they have to keep the other guys. So when these guys come out, they don't tell these guys. Then we admit the
Take
other
the
guys, so
next group.
the other guys were going to do the chemistry practicals. I mean, it was such a mess, and my life is
But look, it sounds like a mess, but at the same time, it worked.
yeah.
really-
But that's what I'm saying. So it takes me sort of going that far back, that far away, being removed from it all, sort of find the perspective, to find that depth of field that I need to see what's important. And so, yeah, I come from out there, and I come to Namilyango for my S5, for my A levels. I study arts there. It's a beautiful time in my life. I've got most of my shit figured out. I'm okay. I'm assistant head prefect. And, with some respect, we're working hard. Still cussing out teachers. I think the rules, though. I think the rules are my problem. So, but yeah, we do a good thing out there, and I live there, and then I go to Makerere. And at Makerere, I study journalism, and that's interesting because then while there we do some interesting things. So I think that because of what I was doing, because of what happens in my life in Bushenyi, it changes how I then see myself and leadership, which then brings me to Namilyango to then. So we then do a lot of youth work on youth empowerment and HIV/AIDS sensitization projects. But then that leads me into Makerere. Now at Makerere we're doing the journalism thing, but really we're worried about, so what impact are we going to have? Are we just going to be these 20-year-old people who are at the university just eating Rolex and walking to CCE every day? So we start what it's now a bit dated, but we start what we call the Lantern Meet of Poets, together with a few friends, and it then grows on to become the largest sort of not political, but poetry gathering and movement. And a lot of, I look back now, and a lot of the elements that were in that movement, that were born there, have now brought back what you now see sort of recitals, and you see literary programs now, and you see anthologies. A lot of that was sort of birthed at the core of that revival, because there used to be poetry nights at Ouagadougou, but many years ago. I mean, when you guys were still children.
Yeah. Children.
No, when you guys were young, Crystal, you've been on the scene for like 3 decades. So then we bring that back, and the Lantern Meet then grows, and we grow that movement, and eventually we hand it over, and it grows, and now it has the people who carry that torch now they're in schools, they're doing because it's great confidence building, and it's a great way to teach children the language of instruction. They're in schools, they're doing because it's great confidence building, and it's a great way to teach children the language of instruction. So it's important for children to master the language of instruction.
Yeah.
And so yes, so I do that. We do a few things on my career. Of course, there's strikes and there's all of that, but we steer the department in an exciting way. We do a few exciting things, and yes, and then I graduate and I leave my career. And it's and then I'm thrown into the
As a journalist, you mean?
as a my friend. We just got the paper.
You just
No, I mean, we tried because at the time, this is 2008. media houses were already having the conversation on convergence. They were already seeing the threat that radio and TV and newspapers were going to have to merge if they were going to be future fit. And it's only now, so it's 12 years later, and it's only now that the sort of
that it's really happening.
that's really happening. But back then, so that's what we're interested in, because I then major in broadcast journalism, and I'm an okay writer. I take up an intern position at Makerere Faculty of Computing and IT, and I spend I think a year there. It's good. It's good times. It's hard work. It's very hard work, but I'm not afraid of hard work because
of that
background.
background.
Because of the background that I have, and that sort of, you know, drives a lot of how I. But again, because that this like short attention span thing just keeps getting me. So like, you get up in the morning, you're really motivated. It's like cats and little light plays, like mirrors. So like, yes, today I'm gonna crush it. Wow. 2 upsetting emails. The day is gone. It's gone. It's like 8:45. Like the day is finished. It's like no. And so no. So I do that, and then I get picked to go into advertising, into PR. Actually, I start out in PR.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of writing while I'm here at Makerere, but then I go into PR and I move into an agency at the time was called Low Scanad, and that's where I started out my PR career. And at the time it's very writing heavy.
Okay.
But
so you were more of a copywriter when you started?
No. I'm a PR writer. I'm a PR intern.
Okay, PR.
But so I write press releases, a gang of them, like so many. Oh, so many.
When you look back now, wow.
If I tell you, hi, I mean, we've made people say things like, you just always like write this like double layered sentences and put it in the MDs of your client's notes, and he reads it and you're like, he said that. I can't make him say anything because we're already writing speeches and talking points. But and then we move from that, and I mean, while there, that's now when we actually we pioneer this idea of, so what you guys today call, what people call blogging and influencing. That's when we actually pioneer it. And I think you were on there because that's when I think you were a judge for Tasker Project Fame 3. So that's when we introduce a weekly blog, and we say we gotta pay bloggers, and we introduce that, and there's a fees to that, and we make it work. And then eventually the industry then picks it up as a standard practice. And I look back and I say, but did people see that? Did they? Because when we did it as an agency, it was an innovation for us and it was different. But then, you know, people start to say, oh, but you know, I really like what those brands are doing and what those brands are doing, and gets picked up, and then gets sort of, it grows from there. And so I leave.
A lot of brands were very impersonal before that.
Back then. And sort of blogging allowed people to connect to it, but it also allowed brands to build that digital footprint which was necessary.
Yeah.
So I leave there. I after 6 months, I mean, the work is, it's harsh, it's difficult, and then we come out of there, and I move into client servicing because I can write, but I also really love to think. And so they put me in account management, and I start out there, and I'm handling a few brands. This is in 2010. So 2009. So I'm handling a few brands, do some interesting things. At that point, I then get poached to go to another agency called Stalio Advertising because they're looking for a business development manager, and so I go out there and I do that for a year.
I feel like there was a lot of poaching.
No. So when I was because so also you have to understand the industry doesn't pay very well because the industry isn't regulated. So you enter at 200,000 or 400,000. You can barely pay rent. You have one good weekend on your salary, and from the 15th until the 25th, everyone is walking home. You have transport money to come to work, and you have to walk home. So it's difficult days, eh?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, so that's why you keep moving, because someone offers you 100,000 more, and someone offers you a little bit more, and you move. But I mean, at Stalio is when I really get into the communication strategy thing, because we're doing work for Orange, and it's good work. We're pushing things. We end up landing the Coca-Cola PR account for the business, and that's quite good. And once we do that, I then say, you know what, this is what I promised that I would do, and so I leave then, and I go to. I'm foolish and I'm young, and I think, you know what, I'm now ready to become a consultant, which I then discover was a mistake, because you know it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
Do the work and come back out of it.
How long were you a consultant?
All of 3 months.
3 months doing your own thing?
Yeah, I just discovered that you need salary. You can't just like do work for Crystal and wait for her to pay you in 8 weeks or 8 years.
Because that's one of the biggest challenges.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I just then so I get called back into scan grouping to then come back and lead. They had a specialist arm for so the business was sort of split, and so I was dealing with all the construction brands. So we had a cement brand, we had an iron sheets and steel brand, we had a paint brand. So I then specialized in sort of the construction category. Everything that happened in construction, I knew I could anticipate with sort of modeled graphs and where the growth was going to go for those categories. And we did some interesting work there as well. And so I spent a year there at that point. But I'm working. This is now when the Bismode sort of idea gets born, and you're doing. I mean, you're working back to back, 3, 4, 5 months every day. You're at the office every day, and this is how I knew I was working hard. We weren't making money, but you still had money in your account at the end of the month, because you never went anywhere. You went home and you came to work and you ate food. That's what you did, and you paid rent. So you never drank any alcohol. You never spent money on anything because you never went anywhere.
Wow.
And it just, I mean, it was horrendous.
Yeah, that is not quality of life.
Yeah, well, it's good quality of life. It was, but how we rationalize it is we say, you pay the price now. That's how we think about it. That's how admin think about it. Otherwise, there is no way you can justify an 80-hour, 100-hour work week. You can't. But guys are there, and they're churning out work, and you can see it. And so.
But I find that's why a lot of people actually leave or just take a break.
Yeah.
I mean, people get burnt out so quickly.
And burnout is real for us, for guys in the business. It comes very real. It sort of breaks you down, and so I do that for a year, and then I cycle out into an agency called Saatchi & Saatchi. The other guys who historical big business. I think they changed their name now. They're called QG Group, and they're doing interesting work. They have an alternative way of thinking. But now at this point, my interest has properly solidified into strategy and pitches and business growth. So I'm sort of honing into that. I'm doing more practice of that, but I've also become a better writer. And for us, what writing then means is you can write grants, you can write proposals, you can do the stuff that's above what account management stuff is.
Through all these changes, all these moves, what was your philosophy at the time? Was it just a challenge presents itself?
No.
Go for it.
It was always like, listen. So, no, it was always, I think it was the hunger to make a mark. It was always looking for. So you were always looking for brands in trouble to try and see if you can make a difference. And that's, I think that
was your motivation.
That was the motivation at the time. You're young, you think, guys, I can move things. When I was here, I brought this account. When I was here, because that's the stuff that you say to get what you want, to get some money, to get some parks. So yes, that's what I do, and so I moved to Saatchi & Saatchi, do some work there. Those were 2 years, so good years. So this is 2013, 2014, and we do some good work there actually, because we do. So the Bismode is born in 2012, but this is where it is tested, because we come down into an entity that's that's going through some challenges, and there's a little bit of motivation. There's very little motivation, and so we work through that and grow the business and turn it around and bring some really big clients to that. And I remember this because when they were saying, we're gonna hire you, I said to them, they said, we don't have people. I said, as long as I'm here, I can promise you 3 things. I promise you that as long as I'm here, your business won't close. I will set up your teams, whatever you need for your client service people. And we brought all those people. And as long as I'm here, this place will remain open. And it was a big promise, but also I was young and arrogant and difficult. And then you just move heaven and earth to do that.
To make sure you deliver.
You deliver and you do those things. And at the end of 2 years, we'd done that. We'd moved the business from significantly. I mean, in terms of revenue, grown by about 10 times. It was good.